For more on the topic of intellectual property in China, let's head back to D.C., where we have Marc A. He is the co-founder and partner of Caracal Strategies. He joins us tonight to talk about this. Thank you for joining us, Marc.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Well, for years, foreign brands have complained about intellectual property violations in China. Now, this certainly seems to be a step in the right direction. But why was Disney singled out for special protection?
Yeah, I think on the surface, it does seem unusual to have a American company get such quote-unquote special protection, but the Disney theme park is actually a joint project. You have other state-owned enterprises, and Disney only owns 47% of the park. And I think this is an opportunity for the Chinese to really work with a company with products that are well known, to really set a standard, really educate the public in China that intellectual property rights are valuable. And as your last segment just alluded to, the merchandise alone is a core product for Disney's success financially. So protecting those products, those toys going forward will be very important, not only in China, but for their global success worldwide.
Okay, so Marc, to be clear, I mean, our report was looking really at the Disney hotels, but it sounds like the Chinese government is vowing to crack down on all Disney-related items. Is that correct?
Yeah, my understanding is that the government is making a year-long commitment to really crack down on products both sold online as well at the store. In fact, they've created a special zone around the park, a 2.5-mile square, where products that will only be specifically licensed will be able to be sold in that special region. So this is a very unique opportunity, I think, for the Chinese to really set the right tone and make huge advancements with intellectual property rights in China.
Now, Chinese officials have indicated that this is a special one-year crackdown. Why only 1 year?
Yeah, I think the 1 year is kind of interesting. Frankly, I think it'll be extended. China is been known to maybe not make long-term force, and especially in intellectual property rights. They tend to work campaigns of 6 to 12 months. But I would suspect that if it is successful, which I think it will be, that this program will be extended much beyond the 1 year.
All right. Well, surveys show that a majority of American companies doing business in China have seen an improvement in the enforcement of intellectual property rights over the past 5 years. But they also say that ineffective enforcement still remains a big problem. Now, how would you describe the intellectual property environment in China right now?
Yeah, all surveys across the board from Europe, Japan, North American businesses all show an advancement in IPR. But frankly, it's coming from a very low spot. So to make any kind of advancements is very positive. But I think going forward, the Chinese see this as a mutual benefit as they strive to create a more innovative entrepreneurship economy. You're going to need more intellectual property rights. And I think companies across the world are really taking this as an opportunity to really look at it as a holistic approach to find better ways to protect intellectual property rights. Disney is a very unique company in the sense that they've made a long-term investment. They're building the park in Shanghai. I would suspect they'll probably build another park in the coming years. This is a company that's very unique, working with both the central government as well as the local governments to make progress around IPR. It's really on the cutting edge of advancing intellectual property rights in China.
Okay, so why do you think, though, it's been so difficult to crack down on counterfeits in China?
Well, I think, frankly, it's been a very big challenge. Beijing will say one thing, and usually the interpretation or the enforcement of the laws at the local and provincial level don't always match up with what Beijing wishes. So obviously, as we know, China is an evolving economy. You have a court system that is nowhere near as efficient or proficient as we have in the West. You also, if you look at America, we have 400 years of land rights, where China is this is a relatively new phenomenon. So this is an evolving issue. I think with many things, when you want to work in China, it does take some fortitude and kind of long-term vision. But I do think, on balance, the Chinese government is taking the right step. And I frankly think this commitment, especially with Disney, is a really big positive step that we should all embrace and see how it turns out.
All right, we'll take a right step. But do you think there need to be tougher charges? I mean, some are saying that criminal charges need to be brought against violators in China to really deter counterfeits. Do you believe that to be true? No,
I think that's absolutely right. I think the penalties, frankly, are a bit too low. The penalties are in the criminal sanctions aren't really that much of a deterrent. We really, generally, American business and mostly all global business, really like to see China embrace kind of World Trade Organization level enforcement of intellectual property rights. And in conversations with the Chinese government that I've had, I certainly think that's going to happen. It's going to take some time, but it's moving in the right direction.
Moving in the right direction. Thank you so much, Marc. Great to have you on the show. That was Marc Ross, co-founder and partner of Caracal Strategies.